cynicism is really, really easy, but being sincere is really hard because you have to be upfront with yourself. You have to be honest with your feelings. You have to be honest with other people. Sincerity is really hard, and it's easy to just be like, oh, all of that's pointless. I'm not even going to try. It's like a really easy to see through mask. It's dumb. 18-year-old me should stop that.
Well, it kind of reminds me, and I do want to dig into this, like, to the degree that you're willing to go. Even with my close friends, when I was younger, really in-depth, honest, and raw conversations didn't seem to happen very often. It seemed like our entire friend group was sort of predicated on sarcastic jokes and, shared memes and things like that, and quoting shows we liked, or being not serious. And it was very rare when you'd have a real honest conversation where you'd reveal your vulnerabilities, reveal the things you're scared about, or actually state your beliefs with candor. And I always found it odd that the only person I was super honest with when I was 18 and younger was this person who really wasn't actually one of my good friends. He was just a guy that we hung out with occasionally. And he was also one of those kids, and I think a lot of people go through this kind of a phase in life where they have a lot of insecurities. So when they're with certain people, they turn into bullies, not because they're actually sadistic people, but because those people just sort of amplify that insecurity and manifest it as wanting to put other people down or make fun of other people. So he was a guy who, because he was in the skater culture like me, ended up hanging out with people who were kind of bullies and would sort of bully me occasionally. But then on other days when he wasn't with those friends, we would end up hanging out and having a great time, and sometimes like having the most honest conversations that I have ever had as a teenager. And then with all my great friends, that never happened.
Yeah.
Which was really, really weird to me.
Well, it doesn't help that in a group, it is much harder to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and like true. You got to hang out one-on-one to really feel like I can sort of gauge how this person's reacting to what I'm saying and stop before I go too far. But I can't be like, okay, they're creeped out, they're fine.
Yep.
They want to say something. You can't like get that deep into it because there are too many different people you're trying to not be like weird to at the same time, because you want to be honest, but you don't want to be so honest you're afraid of what might happen if you're honest.
Right. So, I mean, to whatever degree you're comfortable talking about, what was it that caused you to become so cynical when you were younger?
I'd say that for the most part, when I was younger, anytime between junior high and really actually even before that, I didn't have a lot of friends for a long time. Didn't really leave the house. Was always lonely for a long time, not all the way through high school, but for a long time, just really lonely, both in the romantic sense and in the friendship sense. Just nothing. And
even though you had friends though, didn't you?
I didn't really have good friends until sophomore year of high school.
Oh, okay. So this is earlier.
And I had one good friend before that, but I didn't really hang out with a lot of people before anything. The most I had was like online stuff.
Okay.
And that was pretty much it. Just a lot of like loneliness and depression that made me into a bitter person who started to be really judgmental of the other people who are like, they're out having fun or doing something, but here's some way in which the way they're living is not as good or as pure as the way as I'm living. So obviously they're happy because they're stupid. And
so it's kind of like that whole idea where, those people go out and party and they go to bars, so they're not as good as I am.
They're so shallow. Allow me to sit here and be intellectual and depressed.
Yeah.
Got 'em. It's like that kind of an attitude. But it's really just like, it's so obvious that that's just a coping mechanism for saying, why are they so happy and I'm not? Let me try to make it better by feeling better. Yeah. It's kind of like the bullying thing, but I never bullied anyone.
You just kind of bullied yourself.
Other than myself. Like everything is always, any negative thing that I've ever done has always been aimed at me because I can't stand the thought of being cruel to someone else. Yeah. Which has its benefits because I'm not cruel to other people. But it meant like that I was really bitter inside back then.
And it seems like a particularly difficult to deal with type of self-bullying because you're on one hand you're bullying yourself, but on the other hand you're telling yourself, I'm better than everyone else for these reasons, so I don't need to go seek help.
It's
Like, I
it's
should
like
be able to
saying,
deal with this.
don't change
Yeah.
because you're correct. You're just suffering for no reason. You could change it and you could stop suffering, but don't, because you're also correct, even though you're also not correct. And it's really like a weird paralyzing position to be in.
Yeah. So if you remember, what were some of the first steps that took you from there to being able to ask for help and be more
Well,
open?
I started actually hanging out with people outside of my house. Something instant messenger just doesn't give. You know, there's a piece of it that it can't give because, you know, I was back in the day, AOL Instant Messenger and like stupid leet speak nonsense and all this dumb internet stuff. But that was it. And
Yeah.
it doesn't give you the same level of friendship that just being
No.
around people can give you. So once I started actually leaving the house, doesn't really matter for what, because the first several things I left for, I never ended up close friends with a lot of them. And I didn't necessarily fit in super well, but I was still somewhere.
Yeah.
And that was better.
So it's just gaining experience.
Yeah.
And then eventually you ended up meeting the people that kind of clicked with you.
Yeah. And like you can't sit at home and say, I'm not going to hang out with anybody until I've found the perfect person to hang out with.
Yeah.
That's just like relationships. You can't do that. You have to get to know people. You can't just sit here and wait for the perfect answer before moving.
Yeah, exactly.